Alright, for Algebra 2 today we didn't have a traditional lesson. Instead we filled in this worksheet. This is found on the website also. It's under the homework section and it's called Graphic Organizer for Conic Sections with today's date. So in case you missed it, I just wanted to go over a couple of things for this. Okay, so first of all, I started by showing the students the first two boxes for Hyperbola. These drawings, by the way, if you weren't here, these just show why we call them conic sections. So conic sections are pieces of a cone. It's the kind of outline of a shape that you would get if you took a cone and cut it, kind of cut a straight plane through it. You would get one of these shapes. So if you just go straight across, you get a circle. If you go at an angle, but not through the bottom, you get an ellipse. This is kind of similar to a parabola if you go cut it at an angle, but you go through the bottom now. So instead, an ellipse would be somewhere here where you still come out the other end. So it's round all the way through. This one you're kind of going out the bottom, so it's a parabola. And the hyperbola is if you cut kind of straight through so that you're hitting both the top and bottom. This technically is a cone in math. This is kind of what we think of, I think, or really this, the circle one, but a cone in math, just for future if you ever take like upper calculus level stuff, a cone is really a top and a bottom, like this. So when it cuts through both of those with like a flat picture, a piece of paper cutting through this cone, that's when you would get the hyperbola. Alright, so that's just kind of a little background there, but getting started here with hyperbolas. The equation, if it's horizontal, remember I have x first here, so my equation looks like this. And I also want you to talk about what these letters represent. So h comma k, remember, is the center when we make the box for the hyperbola. We start with a rectangle. So hk is the center of that. A is like the horizontal stretch that we go. So either way in the x direction when we're making that, before we make the rectangle or the box. And then B would be your vertical stretch. Okay, so let's say I have this as my example graph, where there's a graph, you're just doing any example of this that you want. Okay, you can look at one from your notes or kind of just come up with one. So this would be an example of a horizontal hyperbola. This is my A distance, and then this would be the B distance, so you want to label those. Okay, and then students kind of went on and finished the rest of this on their own, but I'll give you some guidance here. So the bottom where it's the vertical equation, remember this is with y first, then x. A and b still represent the same thing, but remember the hyperbola looks something like this. Okay, on your worksheet you should do this much neater. This is just a quick sketch to give you an idea. And you should still address what HK and A and B are down here. Okay, the parabola, I had students do this one next. Remember, for horizontal, we're going to have x equals something so that it looks like this. For vertical, we'll have y equals something so it looks like this. And then, remember the A, h comma k in these is significant. So look in your notes, see what that represents for parabolas. And then A, remember, is going to be like the width of the parabola. So if it's more narrow or more wide, that's determined by A. Also, if it's positive for horizontal, remember this opens to the right. And if it's negative, it opens to the left. So there's also a little bit different here for the vertical case. Make sure you have that correct. For the horizontal graph here of an ellipse, it's the one that looks kind of like this. And for the vertical graph, it's the one that looks like this. Again, these are all really quick sketches just to give you an idea of what to do with this. This is for you to have a nice summary of all these topics, so please take your time and do it neatly. Okay, For the equation up here for an ellipse, look at your notes to fill that in. It looks very similar to the hyperbola, the horizontal hyperbola equation, but make sure that you note that the horizontal case happens when A is bigger than B, and then the vertical case happens when B is bigger than A. Okay, we get this stretch. It's important that you make those notes because the equation should be the same for here and here. Okay, so that's the only way that we can tell the horizontal and the vertical apart is by which denominator is bigger, the A or the B. Okay, and a circle, there's not really a horizontal or a vertical circle. It's all the same, right? So you don't have to do this second part. Okay, for the rest of the worksheet, it looks like this. You want to talk about the focus for each of these. A circle, remember, it's really just the center is the focus. Or you could say there's no focus. Technically, I guess it is the center of the circle is also the focus, but either one of those for our purposes is fine. The second column was for ellipses, the focus there. You have an equation in your notes that starts with c squared. You might want to also include what you do with c, so you want to find c. For an ellipse, you go c units from the center along the major axis, right? So if it's horizontal, you go the horizontal direction. For instance, if it's like this, it looks like on either side. And then if it's an up and down one, it's like this for the focus points. So you could also maybe sketch those on your graphs along a major axis. Okay, for hyperbola, that you also have an equation. It's similar to an ellipse, but it has a plus sign. So check that. Then you also have some directions on what to do with that. Once you find C, you're supposed to go a certain distance from a certain thing. I don't want to give too much away there, so look that one up in your notes. And then for the parabola, remember we had the equation 1 over 4a. Okay, and then again, there's something that you do once you find C. You're going to use the vertex and do something. So look that up and see what should go, how you should complete that box. Then for the parabola, make sure you talk about the directrix. Remember this, it's not a point, it's a line, so it should be y equals some number or x equals some number. And look in your notes for how you determine that. It involves C. And down here, for the other three, I'd like you to at least give an example. Maybe you want to give an example that's not in the standard form as well. You could also maybe do a short completing the square problem in here that's related to that type if you think that that would be valuable to have there as well. Okay, so now that you have this kind of summarized information, go ahead and work on the homework for tonight, which is homework number 88, I believe. For that, I want you guys to just name the equation. So you're going to be given graphs, and this worksheet should help you with that. Other than that, I will see you tomorrow. Thank you.